this part of the world.
It really is cool, and just about an hour's drive from where we are here at Tailem Bend in South Australia. It's the final race of the weekend of the SA Combined Sedans, a mixture of improved production cars, HQ Holdens and everything in between here today. A big field of over 30 cars have had 2 races already, and Andy Paul picking up the win earlier today in the first race. Wright will start alongside him for the final race of the day here. We've got an XA GT in the field. We've got a swag of saloon cars and some pre-production cars that haven't seen too much track time this year, apart from a start at Malalam, our other track here in South Australia, the famous Malalam Motorsport Park, just north of Adelaide. But there's the man who'll start from pole today.
Yeah, it's been an up and down weekend for Paul, hasn't it? It's always an emotional roller coaster, the game of motorsport, and he looked like he was going to dominate that first race, but unfortunately a little bit of a mechanical drama put pay to that, but no such problem in the earlier race today.
Got Sean Jamieson also in the top 10, Phil Mear in the VC Commodore, Charlie Kovacs, who roared his way from outside the top 15 into the top 10, and Wayne King starting out of position number 10 for the final race today. You've got Dylan Richter in the field as well, Job Stewart. We've got the in-car Camry in the number 30 car from Mount Gambier. Vaughan out of 17th position. Brett Waters and Joel Heinrich, who collected the honours in the HQ. His dad Bruce starting out of 21st position, down to Anthony Norris, who was inside the top 10 in the first race today but fell down, so keep an eye on that number 12 car.
He'll be definitely the guy to keep an eye on from this morning's earlier race. He started further down than that and was able to get all the way up into the top 5, only for Mechanical Gremlin to creep into that car and fire him all the way back down. A little bit of game of motorsport, snakes and ladders, unfortunately for Norris in today's earlier race.
But it spices it up for the final one here. Can they catch Adam Paul? That was a big win earlier today in the Holden Monaro. A very unique looking front row with the Datsun 120Y alongside him.
Well, if anybody can take it to him, it is Matt Wright in that 120Y. He was showing massive amounts of pace. So these 2 cars make their speed in different areas. It'll be an enthralling battle.
We remarked on it in Hidden Valley as well this year. Great to see grassroots motorsport continue to grow. It's been a fairly lean year, but this is where it all begins. If you want to get into motorsport, some of these cars spend a lot of their times in rally sprint competition and at club level, but if you want to get into it, this is where you come and do it. Green flag's about to wave at the back, and 30 cars with the HQs locking into position. Some faster cars buried in the middle and towards the back, so action aplenty here in the final race of the SA Combined Sedans. The Repco Supersprint here at the Bend Motorsport Park. The Datsun up against the Monaro, and the Dado gets left at the start line as everybody gets away from their grid boxes, but Adam Paul gets the lead and will take us down to turn number 1 with 3 and 4 wide in the middle. And the big XA GT moves up into second. And that's Mia on the outside in the VC Commodore. It's made up at least 2 positions.
It always makes me nervous when we see a car not go anywhere on the start line, particularly when they're on the front row. And for Wright there, thankfully it was just a slow start, because there's that little period. It feels like it's only a second, but it feels like it's about 10 seconds in reality, because you think everybody else is moving, everybody else is going, and the last thing we want is any sort of contact. Thankfully, everybody was able to get going.
You see the different lines. Oh, car slowing. Is that Jamieson, or is that the second of the Sedan Hotels? It is Jamieson. And he'll drop right down the field. What a shame. He started from 8th position today after finishing 3rd. Drops to the tail of the field. So who's looking good here is Phil Mear in that 66. The VC Commodore, at 40 years old, is mixing it with the XA just ahead, while Adam Paul has nearly 4 seconds alone on the opening stanza.
We'd love to see the Chickadee livery added to that car with those gold rims on it, wouldn't it? That would be really, really cool to see. But it's great that he's able to mix it up there with some of these other cars, particularly that XA GT. I get the feeling that's your favourite car in this field this week. The XA GT. I know you're a Commodore man, I know you're a Holden man, but
the GT.
I do think that, mate, you keep making a lot of references to that XA.
It just looks cool, and it's just not built for this kind of racing. I think he's doing a mega job, considering it's pretty much factory underneath.
Speaking of doing a mega job, look at this battle here. We've got cars 2 wide. There was a second there where they were 3 wide trying to navigate their way through the complex of double left-handers before turning to that sharp right, and everybody giving enough racing room. Oh, that's a big move down the inside from the Toyota 86 GTS.
Seen some great shots inside Job Stewart's entry. Here's a replay at the start. So got your concern for the Datsun 120 wide. Actually got away okay, but the other guys were just quicker.
And when we watch the replay like that, it doesn't feel as painful because I know that he's going to get moving. But when those ones in real time happen, oh man, it makes me really, really nervous. Well, geez, that's Norris making massive inroads, and he did something very similar this morning and made his way forward very quickly. And we just caught how that was there. It currently sits in 10th
from 28th in one lap.
But he made up about 12 spots off the start alone, Matt. So much speed in that car. Now, he was the beneficiary of that mid-race safety car in the previous race, which bunched everybody up. We'll have a look at the battle between all the HQ Holdens. They never disappoint, do they?
In formation as well, rows of 2.
That's not formation, that's just HQ racing. That's how they do it.
This is Joel Heinrich, who picked up the class win this morning. He's at the tail of this forecast graph. I think it's his dad leading the race. Yeah, it is. Bruce Heinrich, legend of HQs and saloon car competition in South Australia. Oh, spare a thought for those tyres, please, just for one lap.
Down Heinrich. 1 gear on the approach to turn 6, which is the hairpin, one of the slowest corners on the circuit. And you can just hear how much the revs drop there. There's a big gap between the gear ratios in these cars, and they take a long time to get any momentum.
If you get them wrong, it's a long time before they gear up.
You can just hear those Kenda tyres that they run on underneath, screaming, saying, oh, there's too much weight on top of these 4 tyres that are sitting underneath a whole heap of steel.
So 20th, 21st, 22nd and 23rd. Now, who was that?
Jamison? No, Jamison's up underneath, up as being in the pit lane there. So it looked like
it could have been Holmes.
Like a similar car.
It was Holmes, the 9 car, the sister-looking saloon car. So that's dropped down the field as well. So the saloon cars in the wars in the final race today, while Adam Poole is out to 6.5 seconds. Wright runs second. And a change of position here as Bailey goes down the inside and takes 3rd spot from Hagen Zerk.
That was a great move from Bailey. Really well done in the braking zone down at turn 1. Nice and clean. Both guys giving each other plenty of racing room. It's interesting to watch Bailey. He's done that a couple of times this weekend. He's got a massive amount of turbo horsepower underneath the bonnet of that car, but a lot of the time when he comes out of the corner, he's leaving about a car with gap on the exit, and he's not using all of the road.
Oh, Salida having a big moment. That's through the turn 5 sweeper. So unlike yesterday, we actually caught him in the act, but his gap was out to 15 seconds yesterday. It dropped to 2.
Just dropping that right rear tyre out onto the dirt. Now back to the HQ battle here. You said before about some mechanical gremlins starting to creep into a few of the cars within this field. Now, we will have no such issue with HQ Holden field. These things are bulletproof.
The factory standard parts are still inside.
They'll go all day long. Even if they run into each other, they'll go all day long. And that is just the absolute beauty of this class. Always has been. It was really hard, tough racing. Oh, this is Job Stewart. He's done a brilliant job all weekend. You'd have to say that that Toyota 86 is going to expire shortly with the amount of smoke coming out the back of it. Now, you can see him trying to catch the rear of the car. It has to be a byproduct of the smoke. The smoke is a blue colour, suggests it's oil smoke, and now he's slowing down. So that'll be spraying all over the rear tyres, and that's why he looked like he was about to have that moment there, was able to catch it. It's not something we see from the Toyota 86 cars very often at all. They're normally really, really bulletproof.
Not this time. What a shame for the 16-year-olds. His first ever car race from Mount Gambier here in South Australia. It looks like it's going to come to a premature end.
And you can see the smoke starting in the middle of the car there, which suggests it's engine related rather than drivetrain. That's an unfortunate end.
So he's limping down the field and probably heading back to the pits to join Holmes, King and Jamieson in the pits. We just saw a quick glimpse of Dylan Richter. There he is in car 21 with Hayden Clark. So swapped there for 12th and 13th position. Just ahead of them is Charlie Kovacs still, and the Utes back in formation again. And Bruce Heinrich now with Joel running in second. But again, right down the field, aren't they? When you look at 20th, back to 24th position on your screen, while Paul is out to 12 seconds to right. It's only a second back to Bailey. So we might have a late race battle here for second and third. We're still 6 and a bit minutes remaining.
And that looked like Jenkins in the 29 there, just getting, can I be cheeky enough to say, some aero wash as the 4th HQ Holden here in the back of this queue, running off the road.
You can say it.
I'm going to say that the 3 cars ahead of him have taken all the air off the bonnet, because that's the only thing that's giving some downforce on that car.
It's certainly not the boot.
If any at all. Just cracked the throttle a little bit too early, and like you said before, Matt, momentum is king in a HQ Holden, and you've got to make sure that you carry all the mid-corner speed that you possibly can. Now, it's not massive in terms of motorsport, but in terms of the amount of grip that the tyre offers to you, it's the determining factor as to how much corner speed you can carry. And if you do make a mistake, it takes a long, long time to recover that time that you've lost. Everything's in slow speed when it comes to HQ racing.
Not too many categories to just do one gear change at the fastest point of the track.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is the battle for second and third. The Datsun up against the Nissan on the way down to turn 18. And still time to play out. So, right, they're not going to catch Paul unless he makes a mistake. Fastest lap of the race to him at 2:06.5. The gap is 14 seconds in the final race of the SA Combined Sedans of the weekend.
And it just goes to show how much speed Paul had left in the number 28 entry in today's earlier race. Bailey having a little look up the inside of right. He was able to get that job done a couple of laps ago on Zerk. But no such joy this time round to be able to take second position away from right. But Paul, he's got so much speed in that car. Right couldn't go with him. I thought that he would be able to. Doesn't matter. Bailey's got the race on here.
This is Kovacs at 17. And Charlie's used to running on the dirt. He's done this a few times in his career. That allows Richter to close in on the gap. Meantime, second and third still on as right is bowling it wide and will lose the position at the turn 6 hairpin. So that's the only invitation, and Nissan Sylvia needed to move up into second. And Bailey, I don't think is going to catch our race leader.
And that was just a driving error from right for me, Matt. You look how wide he is out there on the approach to turn 6 to the hairpin. He was trying to slow that car down, and then as he turned the steering wheel in, there we go, we've got a left front lock. That tells the story. But he was out on the dirt. He was a lot wider than Bailey was on the entry, and then from that moment on, he knew that the apex was about 2 car widths over to the left, and there was nothing he could do about it. He was on the high line. Little Peugeot.
Little 206 model. This is Brett Waters. And where's the Brett still running at the moment on the circuit in 17th spot in the Daily Shopper.
Great little car. Plenty of those around, particularly in high school car parks with P plates on the back of them. But great to see one out here on the circuit at Tailem Bend.
And 8 seconds quicker than the HQ still.
Exactly, and that just goes to show, doesn't it, exactly how far technology has come. Mind you, you look at the size of the thing, it's punching about half the hole in the air of a HQ.
Half the weight.
For about the same amount of power.
Meantime, Richter is on the back of Charlie Kovacs.
Literally into the back of Charlie Kovacs. I don't think Charlie needs a hand to get the rear of that car light at the moment.
Well, he does it all fine on his own in that Red Express entry, while he's got a couple of 86s circling in the background. Battle for 10th. Here in the closing stages of the race. So Richter, the lone saloon car in, a 27-year-old. It's been the saloon car game for a bit, and now taking on one of the wily veterans of Australian motorsport, and gets the job done at the final turn. So Richter up into 10th.
Really forced the move on Charlie Kovacs there, Richter. That was job very, very well done.
And
And the Hayden Clark entry is actually down as being a Subaru BRZ. So identical car to the Toyota 86, just with slightly different badging on it. Oh, now this is back to the battle here between Wright and Bailey. So they've reversed their positions. Is that a mistake from Bailey down at turn 6? No. The mistake came earlier in the lap. This is the turn 2-3 complex after that very long straight. So Wright was able to get the job done on him again. Oh, a little tap from Bailey.
That's at the turn 6 hairpin where he had that off earlier. So he decided to let him go with that one rather than unload and have to redress that issue later in the race. And
there'll be no damage to the left rear of the Datsun 120Y there. That'll be 10 mil thick steel on the rear quarter panel. Plastic bumper bar onto steel rear quarter.
Wouldn't even know there's a mark on it.
120Y will win every single day.
So Adam Poole in the Holden Monaro. 2:06 here, 6 seconds a lap quicker than the cars around him as he starts to work into the HQ Holden cars.
He's driving that car so differently to yesterday, isn't he? Yesterday, really straight, really narrow, off the back of having what we thought was possibly some engine dramas, and today there's no such engine dramas. Every time he gets on the right foot onto the throttle pedal, that thing just snaps sideways underneath him. Looks like it's semi-circuit racing, semi-drift racing out there for Paul.
He's backed off a bit here too. He's now 8 seconds slower than the fastest lap of the race. The gap is at 22 seconds, while Anthony Bear
is that so that he doesn't have to do too many laps, as he only got X amount of fuel on. Now, Bear out in the dirt, absolute rack stops on the steering lock there.
Only because Aho had pushed him that far wide. This is where it began at turn 17. So Aho in the upper spec 86. Now watch this on the final turn as Bear tries to hang on the outside and takes back to his racing roots on the dirt track.
And while all that was going on with Bear giving us that massive big dirt screen, I saw Norris in the foreground of that shot heading towards the pit lane. So that's pretty similar to what happened in today's earlier race as well. What is going on here, Matt?
Maybe it's only built for 5 or 6 laps.
Maybe the tank's not big enough.
It's possible.
Too long a race. They typically do very short races in this class. Oh, now Ward's out. So has that got some sort of a broken...
Saying at the rear of the car?
Yeah, it looks like... Rear? Correct. I was going to say a push rod, but it's not. It's a link rod that looks like it's that connects from the suspension to the diff housing. Shouldn't be down on that angle. So that's Ward out. He's parked the car up. Looks like... Is that on the exit of turn 2-3? Where are we there, Matt?
It's a big track to take in. He's out of harm's way against one of the tyre wall. That's one of the blessings of this track. There's so much outfield at the Bend Motorsport Park.
Yeah, and so this is the 79 here.
Coming out the back of it. There you go.
Yeah, and that'll be because possibly the right rear has just dropped down onto the ground when that link rod would have broken. So it's on the exit of turn 1 or somewhere between turns 1 and 2 there. So he's more than out of harm's way. We should be able to greet the checkered flag here. So you're right, Paul has backed it off, but that gap between Paul and Wright back into second position still sits around about that 25, 26 second mark. So he certainly doesn't look like he's driving that car as hard as what we saw in the early phases of this race. Just making sure that he can get to the checkered flag, particularly off the back of yesterday's issue, and he's certainly driving it hard now.
I think he's trying to do what Tom Randall did in the Aussie Tin Tops and maybe set the fastest lap of the race. He doesn't need to with 25 seconds to his advantage with Wright, Bailey, Zirk and Mir. Your top 5 in the final race. It's down through turns 7, 8 and 9. The sweeping right-hander complex going downhill. It's been having fun, albeit some scary moments, more so for him than us, when he dropped the wheels off the dirt at turn number 5. Just controlling this race pretty much from the outset. On this, the final lap, we've got several cars in the pits. And the HQ on us, it's going to go to Bruce Heinrich at the moment, who's trying to set the fastest lap if 2 minutes 31 is the fastest lap.
And I'm not sure how much horsepower is under the bonnet of this number 28 entry, but from the sounds of it when it just went past us there, and from the look in the way that he's driving it, It's got absolutely more than enough, Matt.
Yeah, more in reserve, no question about it, through the park and view section as he has some fun for the punters on the hill. And he set it to party mode on the final lap with 27 seconds his advantage. In fact, he can probably chuck a couple of 360s here and keep going and still win. Hope he can't hear us. On the way down to turn 18, Adam Poole is going to do this nicely. Expect something special off the final turn. And to the checkered flag with a couple of licorice straps to boot. And the checkered flag waves for Adam Poole in the final race. We'll have to wait nearly half a minute for Wright and Bailey. So why not we jump in car with Joel Heinrich and see if he can pass his dad on the final lap here. Wright is in the mix of this lap traffic. The HQ's ahead, but has about 1.5 seconds to Bailey. And gets it done. So that's second and third sorted. So that went on and on. So the Nissan threw everything at him, but come up a fraction short to finish in third position behind Adam Poole, Wright, Bailey, Hagen Zerg, Phil Mear in 5 ahead of Aho, Bear, Dornan, Richter, and Nick Hancock completing the top 10 in the final race here today. So the rest of the field are taking the checkered flag with Clark just behind at 11th. Kovacs, McKeegan, Vaughan, Waters, and Bruce Heinrich did hold on in the HQ Honors ranks, Holden ranks today. And the rest of the field, there was several DNFs. Congratulations to Adam Poole, winner of the final race of the SA Combined Sedans, as we head down to the Hino Hub with